Okay, so we look at Call of Duty World War II at 21:9. I wouldn't be surprised if people had very varying opinions on this game, from those who automatically want to hate on it, something I can't fully deny being party to those who want to like it despite any issues, again, a side I can't fully denounce. I've got to say though, I was, on the whole, pleasantly surprised. I hadn't expected it to be as much fun an experience as it is. That said, that doesn't mean it's a great game. Anyway, before I go on to explain things, let's cover the 21:9 support. So things are a bit better than the beta. Gameplay does show off more on the sides of the screen technically, and the FOV limit has been somewhat increased. But this is where things get messy and annoying. So in all their stupid wisdom, the devs have capped the 21:9 max FOV level at 75 in order to stop 21:9 users basically seeing more than 16:9 users at higher FOVs. So whilst we can see more than them if we were both on an FOV of 75, because the 16:9 user can go higher, they can make up for that lost space. Overall, whilst this is a better way of implementing it than Overwatch, it's still total BS. I cannot believe this is a move they took. How many times does it need to be said that 21:9 is no more an advantage than a higher resolution screen, or larger screen, or faster refresh rate, or faster internet connection, or better peripherals, etc, etc. This crap annoys me. Things get even more confusing because at 3440x1440 the max FOV level is 75, but users have noticed that 2560x1080 actually gives you an FOV option of 80, and with both resolutions being essentially identical, how this disparity exists I don't know. Luckily, with all this said, the FOV is just about acceptable for both single player and zombies, but for online play it isn't high enough. For that kind of competitive arena, I need a far greater FOV level and felt significantly hampered. The rest of the game has all kinds of ultra-wide support. The HUD shifts the sides of the screen, and screen effects for the most part stretch to use the entire screen space, and that includes the binoculars. Though there are some exceptions to that, where screen effects don't quite reach the very edge of the 3440x1440 screen space, but do at 2560x1080. Thankfully, it's not really noticeable. Menus are both 21:9 and 16:9 with black bars. Cutscenes are both pre-rendered 16:9 with black bars and in-game 21:9. It's quite an even mix. The quality of pre-rendered ones is actually really exceptional. It's just sad that they aren't very high res in order to save on that download size. And finally, loading screens are 16:9 with black bars. It's not a great situation overall. Performance tells a similar story too. It's not terrible, but it's a long way from perfect. At 3440x1440 on a GTX 1080 Ti, I could lock to the highest refresh rate possible on ultra everything settings. But I say it like that because the game ridiculously has a bug where I can't select the highest refresh rate of my screen, 95. When I do, it black screens until I click B to cancel the graphics change or wait for the timer to run out, and it returns to the original refresh rate selected. So I had to select a refresh rate of 80. Now, that said, I think I found a sort of workaround where I selected 90, then when the screen went black, I tabbed out of the game and then back in and the image returned correctly, but regardless, this is very buggy. There is a rather large set of graphics options, and luckily I was able to avoid any graphical FPS hitching most of the time, but unfortunately that doesn't stop issues occurring when online. I have a good internet connection, and proof of such is my zero issue with online titles like Battlefield 1, Rainbow Six Siege, etc. Sadly though, COD titles always have lag issues. They just can't do server connections right. Obviously, I don't know what is on their end that is causing the problems, but it means regardless of how well you can run the game, it doesn't matter a jot if everyone on the server is lagging all over the place when playing. Now, I had lag issues in about 10% of games I played, and I would just have to leave and keep joining other games until I didn't have the issue again, but that's 1 in 10, an insanely high number. No wonder this series gets so much flack, as this is a problem that happens every single year. Another performance-related issue I'm frustrated by is that all three parts of the game, single player, multiplayer, and zombies, have their own graphics settings menus. They are exactly the same options, but again, the devs thought it would be great for us to have to set up individual graphics settings for each part of the game, which is just bloody annoying. No wonder people are scared off from playing PC when they're forced to configure 3 sets of graphics options just for a single game. And yes, you do need to restart the game to apply many of the graphics settings. Now, I'm not really going to talk about gameplay from a mechanics standpoint, because this is no different to the rest of the series, apart from the lovely fact that there are no exosuits in sight, a well overdue change. But yeah, all in all, mechanically, the gameplay is the same as it always has, and you'll find no real surprises here. You know what you're letting yourself in for. What I want to touch on is how these mechanics are used. So the big surprise to me was single player. Well, I suppose it wasn't a huge surprise, but a welcome one. I actually really enjoyed the single player story. It's a well-told, gripping action hero story that has way more gravity behind it and will interest way more people than any of the games since, like, World at War. Yes, I'm swayed significantly by my love of the World War II setting, but I've played every COD story to date, and so I know the horrible ones from the genuinely enjoyable ones, and this will actually provide an experience many players are looking for, something similar to games like Brothers in Arms, though without the real squad control or covering fire depth. Yes, it's not a story that you'll remember for ages to come, but it is an exhilarating one whilst you play. It's COD doing what COD does best, making you feel like an action hero. There are great stealth, infiltration missions, the stealth mechanic is nice and robust enough for this. Levels feel alive and really full and fleshed out. There is fantastic gore with your weapons feeling hefty and powerful, there is no regenning health anymore, and whilst the new alternative method of just calling upon your squad members for ammo or health isn't much more difficult, it is still a little more challenging, and I like it. It's an attempt to change up the formula, and whilst it's not amazing, it's still welcome. Zombies makes a return and nothing has really changed in the overall scope of it. It plays very much like every other COD Zombies to date, but that doesn't change the fact that it's addictive, and with its best gore mechanics and slick movement and fun level designs with puzzles interwoven throughout yet, I've nothing to bash here. I absolutely adore Zombies. It's something I've sunk literally hundreds of hours into across all the versions, and this continues to be a fun experience that, like the rest of the game, won't overly surprise you in any way, but will entertain those who understand what they're getting into. That said, there is a lot more depth to customization of your weapons and perks that you go into each level with, but the issue is, because there is only one map at the moment to play on, it's kind of pointless having so much extra depth here, because you'll just be bored before you experience much of it, because you're stuck playing the same map every time. This needs to have shipped with like 4 zombie maps really. One at launch isn't good enough, and I certainly do not recommend buying the season pass, so for most of us we'd just be stuck with the one map anyway. Now, multiplayer is of course what everyone thinks of most with COD, and I wish I had good news to tell you, and that things have been taken to the next level and it's amazing, and I've read people saying that they love how much better this multiplayer is, but it isn't any different. I love chatting about games and what you can do in them and what they have to offer, but I don't know what to say about this multiplayer that you won't already be extremely familiar with if you played any other COD. The whole divisions thing is made up diversity. In reality, nothing is different. You have your usual creator classes, various weapons, abilities, and so forth. Maps are pretty much the same, 3-lane small kill zones, and the game mode's the same as ever, with just one quite nice exception, the game mode called War. This is where 2 teams fight over multiple objectives in an attack and defend setup. Think Rush from Battlefield. One team needs to take 2 or 3 objectives before they can move further into the map, and the other team needs to stop them from doing it. It is actually really good fun and tense, with interesting tasks like needing to escort tanks forward by being next to them, otherwise they'll just roll backwards, or needing to build a bridge whilst under heavy fire. This was the one thing that felt new and exciting, but still felt lacking when compared to games like Battlefield 1. I'm unsure why I would choose this over that. There is sadly no split screen. For consoles there is both 4-player offline and 2-player online split screen, but PC appears to have none of these options. Annoying again. And the headquarters social thing they've tried to make popular is a complete joke. Why would anyone spend time in here? I don't know. So what I'm saying is pretty clear at this point. This is a COD game. It plays, looks, and feels like one. You won't be surprised by what it throws at you, but that doesn't change the fact that it is at times fun. There is a reason that it continues to sell so well. That said, it is still rather stale. The World War II setting is a breath of fresh air and certainly holds the game back from being more stale than it would otherwise have been, and it is certainly a hugely better game than previous titles like Infinite Warfare or MW3. What's weird is that I actually would recommend picking this up because of the single player and zombies, and not because of the generic online multiplayer. That is simply something you could get in any other previous game. Overall, this is just not innovative in any meaningful way and should not be prioritized over alternative games that can provide far deeper, more interesting, rounded experiences. And I struggle to find any reason to recommend this over games like Battlefield 1 if you were looking for a fantastic first-person war game to play online. Now, I'm forced into a bit of a tight spot with giving this a WAF score because I really want to give it a 0, but technically it's not a 0 because it does support us correctly at certain FOV levels, but the fact that they cap us lower than 16:9 users totally goes against anything that I want to support. So I'm going to give it a WAF score of 1 because really we are not supported well enough, and I just cannot support the devs on this. Anyway, I hope that gives you some information how the game runs at 21:9. Give this video a like if you found it helpful and subscribe for future info. For any of the games at 21:9, head over to my channel or WAF website. Hopefully I've covered it. If I haven't, then leave a comment down below and I'll try and cover it. And if you'd like to support the channel, the links to my Patreon page are in the description and Amazon affiliate links are there too. See you later.